Hello folks, welcome to the UniHosted YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to cover guest networks. I'm going to show you how you can set up a guest wireless network so you can provide internet access to your guests, and also show you which options do you have in the UniFi controller so you can restrict access and secure your environment while providing your guests with internet access. I'm going to show you what you can do if you only have a UniFi access point, and also what you can do if you also have a UniFi gateway. Now, without further ado, let's begin. Alright folks, so let's begin with the configuration. Like I mentioned before, I want to cover a few scenarios, and the first one will be if you don't have a UniFi gateway where you can set up VLANs and some firewall rules to restrict the access of the guest network. Now, what do I have here is I do have a UniFi gateway, but I'm just going to use the built-in controller of my UniFi gateway, and it's going to be pretty similar if you only have a UniFi controller. That could be a self-hosted controller or a controller that is hosted with UniHosted and a few access points connected to it. So I have here, like I mentioned, the UniFi built-in controller of my gateway and an access point over here already adopted and ready to be deployed with some wireless networks. So I'm going to get into the settings over here down at the left side of the screen. I already have one Wi-Fi network. It's just for my main network, and I will go here into create new. Let's name it guest. You can use another thing if you like. Now for the password, I'm going to use something really simple, but remember always to use a complex password for your Wi-Fi networks. So over here in the manual advanced options, we can find the client device isolation feature. Basically, like you see here at the info, prevents wireless clients on the same AP, really important to know this, from communicating with each other. Now I'm going to click over here and click add Wi-Fi network. So a big important thing about that feature. Only the isolation will only work for devices that are connected in the same access point, are connected to that same wireless network, and they won't be able to see each other or to connect between each other. But they need to be connected to that same access point where you deployed this wireless network. This doesn't apply to other devices that maybe you have connected to your main network, but are connected by a cable. And I'm going to show you what I mean with this. So let me go over here. Just let me check if my access point has already the configuration of the wireless network deployed. Yes, I can see it's green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect now to this network with my wireless card. So let me go into here. I need to deactivate my Ethernet card. There we go. Okay, perfect. If I go over here and give me just a second. Here we have the guest network that we just created. Okay, next. Okay, I'm connected. Now, first thing that I want to show you is I have connectivity to the gateway. So this means that I'm not isolated from the gateway, from the UniFi gateway. So like I mentioned before, devices that are connected to your main network with a cable, they're not going to be isolated from devices that you connect to this wireless. So this is one of the downsides, and I think it's a big one that you may have with this feature, or if you only are able to enable this feature. What I'm going to do right now, I have a phone over here, and I'm going to connect it to the same access point and wireless network. So just give me a second. Let me see. I think it already connected. It's showing yips, showing over here. So if I go into client devices, let me see, Wi-Fi, it's showing over here. Let me update this. There we go. Now you can see I have this Huawei phone, which is the one that I use for testing, and it's connected to the guest Wi-Fi. This is the IP address of that phone. This is my IP address connected to the Wi-Fi. What I'm going to do is use this command prompt to do a ping. Okay. And I think we are going to timeout. And yes, we don't have connectivity to that phone. But remember, it's only this client device isolation. It's only for devices that are connected to the same access point, because basically the access point is doing the heavy work and isolating devices connected to it. So really important. This feature is not perfect. And if you want more security, you will need to work a little bit more, basically creating VLANs and then creating firewall rules between those VLANs. So you want to restrict access over there. So that's going to be the next part of the video. So now let's begin with the other configuration examples that we can do. All right, folks, so let's begin with scenario number 2. And basically this one will cover if you do have a UniFi gateway. Okay, so I'm here at the controller again, and this time I will go into settings and I will go into networks. I still have that guest network that we created before. Now this time in networks, I will create a new virtual network. Okay, perfect. Now let me just name it guest. The router will be the UCG Ultra that I have. Now here we have the zone option, into which zone we can place this. So for a guest network, I will definitely avoid placing it on the internal zone, and probably we have our best option, which is using the hotspot zone. Of course, if we choose this option, there are a few things that I will show you that you need to modify depending if you want to have a captive portal or not. Let's use hotspot zone, and then I will create another setting or show you another option, which is basically getting another zone. Okay, so let's go here and choose hotspot. I'm going to change this, okay, and change a little bit the subnet number scheme, and also go here to advanced because I will use another VLAN ID. That will be the VLAN ID 40. So we don't need to use this feature called isolate network. This is one of the built-in or default features that you can use in the UniFi Gateway firewall based zones that basically will create rules for you. So this one is pretty straightforward, but we don't need to do any of that, and I will show you why. That's why we are using the hotspot zone. Okay, perfect. I'll just leave the other options there enabled. Don't need to modify the DHCP range. And same thing for DNS. I will just leave the DNS for auto and click here in add. Now, while I'm waiting for this thing to be deployed into the gateway, I want to show you my main LAN. Now for this LAN, I do have a DNS or a custom DNS server because I deployed a domain controller to this LAN, and I also have a computer that is joined to this domain in that domain controller because I wanted to show you a few things while I'm doing some testing. So you can see the power of using the hotspot zone, and also if you want to create another zone. Okay, perfect. Now, one more thing that I need to do is after I create that VLAN, I need to go into the Wi-Fi settings and the guest network that I created before. I'm going to change it. And now I do have this option of choosing which network I want to set up for this wireless network. And I will use here the guest. So applying changes over here. Perfect. So like I mentioned before, I deployed a few virtual machines, a domain controller, and 2 workstations. I have one domain controller connected to the main LAN, another workstation connected also to the main LAN, and I have another virtual machine that is going to be connected to this guest network. So these ones are the ones that we will use for testing. Okay, now I want to show you something else. If by default you use the hotspot zone to create your guest network, there's something that you need to be aware of, and that is the landing page. So if you want to check the landing page for your hotspot, you need to go into Insights, and you have the option hotspot here, and then we have the landing page. Right now the landing page is disabled because I disabled it before. By default it's enabled, so I'm going to enable this one so you can see how it works with the virtual machine that I have connected to this network. So let's change a few things. You can modify this text accordingly to what you want. I will just leave this. These are the things that I typed before. You can, if you want, just disable the terms of service. You can change the logo. If you want to change the background, a lot of things that you can do to modify the landing page. I invite you to check this and play a little bit with it. You have the success message basically after you connect. Something else that you can do here is the authentication. I'm not going to go through all these options or how to set them up because they are a little bit more complex, but here you can see that you can use things like Facebook, a password, a payment option, or vouchers with this captive portal or hotspot zone. And you can also set up radios for the captive portal. Of course, you need a radio server. And if you go into settings, this is where you can disable the landing page. And also if you want, there are a few other things that you can modify. Now, something really important, and this is where the rules are placed. There's also another place where we will see the rules for the hotspot zone, but this is one of the places that you can see. Now, this basically is blocking all the private networks. So from the hotspot zone, we won't be able to communicate with any other network that we have created. And of course, I'm going to do some testing so you can see how it works. But here is one of the places where you see all the restrictions. We can also set up another restriction over here, but I invite you to instead of using maybe this option over here, let me save what I had before. Let's go also to the firewall based zone options so we can see all the security settings. So over here in security, now you can see I have all the zones of my firewall. I have the mainland that it's placed in the internal zone. We have external, which is my network, my modem router connection or my ISP. And we have over here the hotspot. So the hotspot is the zone where we placed our guest network. Now here we have the zone matrix, okay? And if we go if we look here from hotspot to internal, we have a few policies in place. And here's the one that I showed you before, the one that we were saying, the post authorization restrictions. So if we click over here, you can see this is where basically it explains what it's doing in this rule, and it's blocking from the source zone, which is hotspot. So anything that it's in this zone, which includes our guest network that we just configure, it will block anything that it's on the internal. And you can see it also has the subnets that we saw before, all the private subnets or IPs. Okay, so let me close this. Just wanted to show you, basically these are the automatic rules that are created and that you can use, and basically you don't have to be playing a lot with rules here, and it's not going to be a headache for you to isolate the guest network from your mainland or other networks that you may have in your internal zone. So now that we have reviewed this, let's do some testing. So I'm going to open here. This is my VMware workstation. This is where I have all my virtual machines. So let me start by getting into this one. This is the workstation that is connected to the guest network. Now I want to show you that. Let me go over here. Now you can see this is the IP address of the guest network, or the guest subnet. Now let me go here. Didn't show me the landing page, but let me see. Okay, so it's asking me to connect to that IP. Let me go over there, and here we have the landing page. Perfect. So basically we just click here in connect. We can see the successful message, and now we can just go to open another website and browse through the internet. Okay, perfect. We do have internet. Now let's test if we can reach out anything that it's on our main LAN. So I want to show you over here. If I go into this virtual machine, let me log in over here. So this is the IP address of this domain controller. From here, I can access the UniFi Gateway if I want, because this is in my internal zone. So all good there. This is what I want in the my mainland, which is in my internal zone. And what I want to show you is that if I go into this workstation or virtual machine actually, and I want to ping or access that domain controller, you can see I don't have connectivity, and this is perfect. This is what we want. And again, placing your guest network in the hotspot zone will give you this, and you don't have to be playing a lot with firewall rules. You don't have to be restricting a lot of things. So I want to show you this. Another really important thing is that from here, from this gateway, if we try to access the gateway itself, the management ports, I'm not able to. I cannot access the management port of the firewall. So that's something also that is really, really important, because you don't want any guest on your guest networks trying to connect to your gateway to manage the gateway like we are doing to modify things. Even if they don't have the password, you don't want anyone there trying to access it. Same thing if we try with the IP that the gateway has in that subnet. You can see I cannot do anything. I cannot access the management of this gateway, this UniFi Gateway. All right, perfect. Now I want to show you that we can also disable the hotspot portal and how you can do it. So let me go back to the gateway over here. If you want to disable the landing zone, again, you just need to go into Insights and you go to Hotspot, Landing Page, and we can just disable the landing page over here. Just need to wait a little bit. Of course, it's applying the settings. So let me go into the virtual machine. I'm going to do IP config release and renew. Okay, I have an IP address. Let me see if now it's asking to connect to the portal. Okay, it's not asking me to connect to the portal. So basically, I wanted to show you that you can disable the landing page if you want. There's another thing I want to show you about hotspot and captive portal. So let me go over here. Now, if you go into the settings and then you go into Wi-Fi, and then you go to the guest network that we just created. Now you can see that you also have the hotspot zone, hotspot option, sorry, over here. The problem with this is if you activate it from here, it will remove the password that you have. So I prefer to have a password on my guest network, even if I'm going to use a captive portal, and I prefer to use the hotspot zone in that case. So I don't have to, or I can have a password on my guest network. So let me go to cancel over there. Okay, so that's how to set up a guest network using the Hotspot Zone. I'll show you in the next part of the video how you can use another way of creating another zone and placing the guest network in that zone. All right, so last example will be if you don't want to use the hotspot zone, if you want to create another guest zone for your network. So what I'm going to do here, I'll create another zone. I'm here at the security options of my firewall. I'll just name it guest, same thing like I have on my network. Now from here, I can choose if I want to assign any network, and I will move the guest network from the hotspot zone to this one that I'm creating. So I'm adding the entry over here. Now you can see that it was moved. Okay, so something to mention, and I think it's really important. If you create a new zone, by default, it will block access to other zones. You can see that the policies from the source guest zone, okay, to internal, for example, basically it says block all traffic. So let's do some testing. And if I go to my computer, this is the virtual machine that I have connected to this guest zone. You can see that's the IP address. So let's try to ping. Let me go back to the CMD. Let's try to ping that domain controller. So you can see I don't have connectivity to that domain controller, but I do have connectivity to the gateway. So for example, if I want to manage the gateway, you can see that I have access to the gateway. So this is something that if you create another zone and if you want to isolate this guest network in this new zone, for example, there are a few tricks that you may want to do. So something that I wanted to show you is basically, let's say, okay, let's block the management of the firewall in this guest wireless and in the zone. What we can do is we can create a rule, okay? So let's go over here and let's create a policy. And let's say, let's block management. Okay, and we can see here, we can play with the source zone and the destination zone. So this will be from our guest zone, okay? It will be any device and any port. What we want is to block. And the destination will be the gateway. So then what we can do is we can, you can see you have the option over here to choose the port. You can choose any. We don't want that option because it's going to block everything. We can specify over here, or we can use maybe an object. I prefer to use an object. So we can create an object over here. Let's use management firewall, okay? So we'll use SSH, and let's also use HTTP and also HTTPS. Create, okay, so we have the object over here. For the version will be both. You can use IPv4, protocol will be all as well. Connection state, you can just leave everything here by default. And now let's add the policy and click on proceed. There we go. Now let me close this. Now you can see if you go from guest to gateway, okay, you can see that we have a few settings here enabled because we need MDNS, or we have a MDNS enable, and also we have some the allow all traffic rule that it's set up for everyone. And here at the top is a rule that we just created, and you can see all the features over here. If I go to the workstation that I had on that network, let me refresh this. And you can see now I don't have access to the management of the gateway. Okay, let me try again just in case. And yep, it's not loading, so that's perfect. That's what I wanted. This is one of the things that I think is really important for your guest network, is to block the management ports of your UniFi Gateway. If you place the guest network on the hotspot zone, this will be by default like you saw in the other video. Okay, so let me go over here. Now with this, you don't need to set up any hotspot or landing page or captive portal. There's one more thing that you will need to do. If you go into Wi-Fi, go to guest, remember to change the the network to be the guest network that you created or we created before. So just checking that this was the case. All right, perfect. Okay, let me just go back to the main menu. All right. And that's about it. This is another thing that you want to, or you can try if you don't want to place your guest network in the hotspot zone and you just want to create another zone to manage the guest network. All right, one more thing that I wanted to show you that I think it's a good practice that you can apply to your guest wireless network is the Wi-Fi speed limit that you can set with UniFi on your access points. So we just need to go to the guest network or the Wi-Fi networks. We'll click here on the guest and we have an option down here that it's Wi-Fi speed limit. So you can limit the download and upload speed of your clients that are connected to your access points. This is a really good feature that you may want to enable to your guest network. So if you check this box, it will ask you to choose a profile. If you don't have any profile created yet, no worries. We can just click create new profile over here. There we go. Now here, just need to name the profile and let me choose, I will use 50/50 and click add over here. Now you can see I have the profile created and Wi-Fi speed limit created. Now we have that. We can just go back to Wi-Fi over here and to our guest network. And we can click here on the Wi-Fi speed limit again and choose the limit that we just created. So I'm going to apply the changes over here. Now, what I want to show you is I'm going to open fast.com. I'm connected with a cable right now. This computer is connected with a cable right now to the gateway, to the main LAN. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable my Ethernet card and I will just be connected with the Wi-Fi card to the guest network where we applied the Wi-Fi limit. So let me go to my control panel over here to disable my Ethernet card. Now, if we click here, you can see I'm connected now to my guest network, the one that I set out the limit. Now, let me refresh over here. And perfect, that's working now. You can see I'm only using 48 megabits to download, or basically for this speed test, but will be basically to download or upload. So that's how you can set up speed limits for your guest network. Is a very good feature that you should enable for your guest network. One thing to note, this is only per client. So each limit will be applied per client. It's not a limit that you apply for your entire network. So this is really, really important for you to know. All right, people, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or any requests for another video, just drop them in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching again. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and also turn on the notifications for the upcoming videos in the Uni-hosted channel. Again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Fernando. I will see you in the next Uni-hosted YouTube video. Bye-bye.